Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and please remain standing for the invocation by Deacon Pete Shoemaker.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excuse my back, counsel. It's a privilege for me to be able to come and to pray in a community setting like this. It's very rare that we're able to do that in different communities, because some communities will not allow prayer. So I'm going to share something with you tonight that is part of my family, and that is Thanksgiving time. We don't eat until every member says what they're thankful for. I want you to think while I pray tonight what you're thankful for. What are you thankful for? Think about that. Let us pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, you know our hearts, our minds, and our souls because you made us. And for that, we are grateful. We are grateful, Lord, for the fact that we live where we live, where we can work and we can play, we can raise our family, feel safe, and grow as a family. Grow as a community. Community meaning common unity. Thank you for the privilege to be able to lift you up, Lord, and praise you and glorify you and thank you for what you have given us in this community, our families especially. We're grateful for the people who serve in our community, the people who stand before us and govern accordingly. We're grateful for them, their family, and all that they do to promote community. All these things, Lord, we lift up to you in your precious name. And we all say, Amen.
Thank you, Deacon. This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the scheduled meetings of the Township Council, established and adopted by the Township Council, which schedule designates the time, date, and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We are using an electronic amplifying and recording device in order to obtain a clear and audible record. And we request all those wishing to speak be recognized and state your name and address directly to the microphone. The recording device will be still utilized by the Township Clerk's Office for the preparation of minutes and shall be the official record of the Township Council meetings. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
Mr. Hutchison?
He has a work commitment.
Ms. Grace? Here. Mr. Mignon?
Here.
Mrs. Stubbs?
She is ill.
Mrs. Winters? Here. Mrs. Strato? Here. Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Carlemere?
Here.
Mr. Cardis?
Here.
Mr. Lechner?
Here.
Chief Harkins?
Here.
Mr. Chadwell?
Here.
Good evening, everyone. For those that were late arriving, our council meeting starts at 7:30. Unfortunately, there's some information that's put out that our meeting starts at 7 o'clock. Our meeting starts at 7:30. We do have an order of business. We have to go in a closed session regarding a litigation matter. That should take about less than 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and move forward with the rest of our agenda. I would assume that most of you are here regarding the Little Pond project. There is a public hearing that takes place during that ordinance reading for a second reading. During that public hearing, anyone that would like to speak has the opportunity to speak, and there is no time limit. But I ask that everybody just be cognizant of and mindful of their neighbors or those who else want to speak during that or comment on that particular ordinance. So just to add to that, we also have an addendum to the agenda that we posted on the board regarding accelerated tax sale. So we have a closed session. So resolution 2111-318, entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second on the question, roll call, please.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mrs. Strato?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes, this is a litigation matter regarding to personnel. We should be back within 5 minutes.
southwest. We're doing that. And the across the state highway.
Yeah, somebody will approach you way back then.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
Right?
This road is going to Oh, this is fun. This is all fun. No, this isn't. Diana already gave us Diana already gave us already. Oh my God, yes, you're sorry. And I know you're upset you didn't make your hair from black to blonde. I think we're brother and sister.
Got a roll call again, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Grace? Here. Mr. Munoz?
Here.
Mrs. Winters? Here. Mrs. Strato? Here. Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Carlemere?
Here.
Mr. Cardis?
Here.
Mr. Lechner?
Here.
Chief Harkins?
Here.
Mr. Chadwell?
Our closed session again was a discussion on a settlement agreement and workers' comp case with an employee. We're now open the first public portion. This is for agenda items only. Again, if you're interested in speaking about Little Pond, we have a separate hearing for that you can raise your concerns. So this is for agenda items only. Does anyone want to speak during the public portion? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion. Ordinance first reading, ordinance amending ordinance 0-03-03, land development to provide a medical cannabis dispensary by an alternative treatment center to include a marijuana retail dispensary as a permitted use in the highway commercial district. So this amends our current ordinance to permit an alternative treatment cancer facility to include a marijuana retail dispensary as a permitted use. Mr. Leck, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, that's basically.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lechner. I entertain a motion
I'll make that motion. Second.
on the question. Roll call, please.
Ms. Grace? Yes. Mr. Munoz?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mrs. Strato? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is ordinance, second reading, there will be a public hearing. Ordinance of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, amending ordinance 0-03-03, land development adopting a Little Pond overlay zoning district for block 20601, lot 4, Gloucester Township, Camden County, New Jersey. This calls for a overlay to include mixed-use development for a 23,000 square foot commercial building that will front Hughes Landing Road and 89 market rate town homes. We have Mr. Bach also who will speak on this, and then Mr. Carlemere, and then we'll open up the public hearing. Mr. Bach?
First of all, if I can just ask Mr. Lechner to clarify, there's 4 lots considered with lot 4.
Okay.
They're on the same tax roll.
Steve, is there a way we can use that microphone?
Absolutely. Tim, why don't we walk up and you just talk about the lots? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I
Steve?
think that is correct. There are additional
lots besides just that 4.
Right, so those lots are just, Ken, if you could read onto the record.
I don't have all 4 lots with me, and you have the ordinance, but there
I
are,
So
Okay.
lot 4, 4.02, 5, and 6. Sorry, Ken.
no, just that the reason, when you look at the property owner under the tax, or tax office, all those other lots, 4.02, 5, and 6 are included as part of. But the notice that went out to all the property owners did specifically list all 4 lots and identified them on the plan.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure that was clear. And again, Steve Bach Associates, just talk a little bit about the ordinance. So as Council President indicated, this is for these lots, and it's approximately 13.2 acres along Choose Landing Road. It permits up to 89 townhomes, market rate, no affordable townhouses or no affordable homes are included within the ordinance. They would have to pay, any developer would have to pay a mandatory affordable housing fee in accordance with the township's ordinance. The residential portion is towards the rear of the site, furthest away from Choose Landing Road. It does have provisions for a mandatory 25-foot residential perimeter buffer around the entire residential portion. Also, there are architectural standards in terms of the townhomes. So it would provide that would provide a enhanced architectural facade on all the townhomes. And also there's provisions for enhanced site improvements, decorative street lights, cobblestone curbs, etc.
And HOA is part of this as well?
An HOA absolutely is required for any stormwater maintenance, stormwater basins, or any common features that would be required under the ordinance and our township development standards. The commercial portion is up to 23,000 square feet, up along Choose Landing Road. It has been set that it would most likely hold neighborhood type of commercial, more like service, retail type of uses. All the uses that are permitted under the highway commercial are permitted in the 23,000 square foot commercial, but due to the size, you would not get some of the larger, more intense uses. So the existing zone right now is highway commercial. And I just want to read off what those highway commercial permitted uses are. Retail, such as big box, restaurants with bar, motel, hotel, lab, medical, catering, trade school, and also based on the size of the parcel, it also could be an include auto repair, gas station, car dealership, if it's factory authorized car dealership, not a used car lot, but it could be a factory authorized, certified, used or new cars, a car wash, and that's generally the larger items. It does permit the type of recreational use that currently exists on the site. It's great that it's been a driving range for so long, but this ordinance is a result of a request by the property owner to look at the zoning. And I just want to point out that there was a 2018 application, which was denied for over 200 apartment units on that site, 3-story in height. There's also a proposal that it's not formal, but a proposal that has been formulated for over 300 apartments on that site with 20% inclusionary affordable housing. So that would be 300 apartments with 60 affordable apartment units on that site. That has not been submitted to any boards, and that's not a formal application. But it's important to note because affordable housing does have a positive criteria in any use variance applications or any land use applications. I just want to point out that the site could hold up to 300 with, unfortunately, or fortunately, affordable housing. So,
And Mr. Bach, that was a 2018 application.
correct,
the
with
200
the
apartments.
over 200
And with
apartments.
the affordable housing component. And again, this is market rate what's being proposed.
Correct. So what has been prepared here, and what we have worked on, Mr. Leckner and myself, is we believe that this is a less intense zoning than the highway commercial, and absolutely much less intense than any apartment use. And it's all market rate, and there's no one-site affordable housing. The affordable housing obligation is done by a development fee that is paid to allow for affordable housing to occur elsewhere within the township.
Mr. Carlemere, could you bring us back to that 2018? Because there was some, I believe, litigation regarding this matter, or some legal proceedings that took place.
Yeah,
I'm going to need you to use a microphone. Steve, can you hand in the microphone?
just in my understanding, the 2018 application that Mr. Bach made reference to was the application before the zoning board. And the application went before the zoning board. I don't know if it was one or two hearings, but several well-attended hearings. And the applicant was asking for, in a sense, under fair share litigation, they were asking for a builder's remedy if they didn't get what they wanted. Which means if the builder's remedy is approved by the courts, and they can go in and put all low-income housing, market rate, or not market rate housing, but housing that qualifies under the COA regulations that were in effect at that time. So the board denied it, which meant they still had their cause of action. And I think it's probably important to note also that the property owner has made a request for this type of zoning, and the property owner has a right to do that. And we've met with the property owner on several occasions. They initially wanted a higher density. They did not want to do certain things with the commercial frontage. And I think the result of the meetings that we had with the property owner and their possible purchaser that's going to do the development is that they created a less density in the development. They created a greater buffer off the highways, the Kelly Driver, and the residential homes in the back. They agreed that they're going to put in that storefront commercial area, and they want 50% of the developments done. They're going to put in that commercial frontage and put those stores up rather than leave them vacant lots. And they also agreed at the county, because it's a county highway, that's going to require a traffic signal in the front and the ingress egress, that they agreed to install that traffic signal.
Anything else to add, Mr. Bach?
Just on the traffic signal, if the warrants permit it. So if it's warranted for the safety of the motorists along Choose Landing Road and also the development, then the traffic signal would be installed. It's not an automatic traffic signal. No, nothing to add.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, please raise your hand. Mr. Sweet.
Good evening, Council. Sam Sweet from Ariel. The first reading of this ordinance was on July 12th, 2020, and the agenda for that meeting wasn't posted until the day of the meeting. At that time, it was requested that the ordinance be tabled. President Mercado, you refused saying that it would not happen again. The agenda for tonight's meeting, which includes the second reading, was not posted until this morning.
Hold on, pause right there. Is that true, Ms. Power? They get posted on Thursday evening.
On Thursday.
It was not posted on Thursday. We did not get it until we went on Thursday, Friday, all over the weekend. It was not there until Monday morning.
I'm not aware of that. We posted on Thursday afternoon. We can take a look into it, but
Okay, well,
no one's trying to hide anything.
all right, I'm just saying it wasn't posted on Thursday. We looked.
Okay.
All right, so based on that, since this is an ordinance which has a huge impact on the community and will change the land use ordinance and the master plan, there are a lot of residents interested in voicing their concerns about this ordinance, but I'm respectfully requesting that the ordinance 020-07 be tabled due to the lack of appropriate notification.
Well, once again, Mr. Leckman, excuse me.
It's my understanding by our ordinance, the property owners within 200 feet were noticed correctly in accordance with the statutory requirements by the clerk.
That is correct.
So I think from a notice perspective, I just wanted it clear that the notice was served by Mrs. Power to the property owners within 200 feet and the property owner and utilities.
But the rest of the township wasn't. And as I stated, this is a huge impact on the community. So people that are outside 200 feet probably have an interest in it as well, and not posting it and not having it posted until this morning affects that. So that's why I'm respectfully requesting.
Are you referring to posting on the website?
I'm talking about, yes, the agenda for the council meeting needs to be posted, according to you, at least 48 hours before the meeting. This was not.
Statutory requirement for the public hearing and second reading, those statutory requirements by law have been met.
By 48 hours?
The statutory requirements of notice and service to the residents, as Mr. Lechner indicated, that statutory requirement by law, which the court looked at, has been met.
Yes, that's
We have a
the,
procedure of posting it on our website. I can't answer to that, but that's the township's procedure of posting their notice.
but I would beg to differ that someone who lives 210 feet away is going to have, this is going to have an impact on, and they weren't notified. They're not supposed to be notified by 200 feet, Mr. Carlemere. I would appreciate it if you'd let me finish my thought. Okay, thank you. A lot of people have a lot of interest, as you can see by the people behind me. All right, so they weren't notified just because they're not within 200 feet. They still have an interest in it, so they should have been notified as well. And according to statute, these agendas should be 48 hours in advance.
So Sam, our clerk just walked out to check and confirm it. So if you can take a break, she's gonna come back to see when it was posted. It is posted on Thursday evening. Thursday afternoon, I received an email from her to okay the agenda. I okayed the agenda around 4:30 in the afternoon on Thursday, and then it is posted that evening. So I know that people were aware that there was a meeting tonight from the last planning board meeting, and also there's some signage throughout this local area regarding this meeting tonight, but we'll get a confirmation. If you could just hold on for 1 second. Okay? So we'll just take a little break. Okay?
Thank you.
Sir, we're gonna wait. Mr. Sweet still has the floor.
No one for his answer? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
I know you had.
Come on, stop.
Confirmation from it, no, that's what we.
No, that's not good. Let me go. They even hire Patrick. Is that what it's all about? I don't know. I would get 3 in a month. I can see you two hanging out. She loves
Can you follow the name? See where she's at with that?
I'm not noticing everybody else.
She remembers, she's like,
Yeah, more about it, but it's not.
what's that joke?
Joe wants Joe. So we told those boys to come up there.
However, it was on Thursday morning. What was second this evening was the schedule. And we also asked that. She'll go call on their students.
So the clerk, Ms. Power, had indicated to me that this was posted Thursday evening. What was posted today was the addendum that we talked about. That went up today regarding accelerated tax sale. So what I'm going to do is we're going to move forward taking comments on this ordinance. And if any member of council is inclined to table this, we'll table it at the end of those comments. But we're going to move forward and take comments from people in the audience, Mr. Sweet.
Okay, if I
Any
may,
other questions?
yes. Why?
Now, again, everyone who's speaking, I want you to be mindful, there's folks that do want to speak up here. So just be mindful of your neighbors, okay? Go ahead.
My question is why, when I checked, and I know several other people checked over the weekend, there was no agenda posted. Did everybody have the same computer error?
I don't know, but Sam, I do, I ran around the neighborhood, I saw signs there. I'm aware that people said that things were online this past weekend regarding social media posts. People were communicating to that attended the planning board meeting that this would be on the agenda. I'm not sure, but she has a confirmation, and tomorrow we'll get a date and time stamp for you if you like that.
Yes, please.
I'm sure. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Carlemere?
This for the members of council, as you're going to consider this specific issue with posting. The law in New Jersey requires a municipal governing body, when they're going to do an amendment to their ordinance or master plan, that they adopt it on first reading and then send it to the planning board for planning board review and recommendation back. They're not bound to wait more than 35 days before the planning board gives a response to the governing body. If they don't respond within 35 days, the governing body can move forward with what they feel should be an amendment to their particular ordinance that's before them. This ordinance was introduced in 2020, and it's probably was listed before the planning board. The planning board didn't hear it for various reasons, and this municipal governing body has always taken the position that we will defer and wait for a planning board to give their input. We're not required by law to wait for that. If they don't respond in 35 days, we can move the ordinance without their response. And if I'm not correct, Mr. Lechner can correct me, but I believe it was listed 3 times before the planning board, this particular ordinance. It's the issues of it, and it's listed for a hearing. When Mr. Lechner puts it down for council's purpose, he then notifies everybody within 200 feet, and he publishes it in the paper, what it's for. If it gets postponed and he lists it again a month, 2 weeks, or whatever later, he advertises again, and he also notifies everybody within 200 feet. So that happened over 4 times. That happened 4 times since the first introduction of this ordinance. When it was listed this time, I believe you did the same thing, and then the planning board heard it. At the end of that meeting, the planning board and Mr. Lechner announced that it would be heard again by the governing body at this 22nd meeting. So notice is more than sufficient that's been given out to everyone. And the law only requires notice to everybody within 200 feet and advertising, which has been done.
Thank you, Mr. Carlemere. Thank you, Mr. Sweet. I have a gentleman that came up here, Mr. Sweet.
But he just rebutted something, and I want
Mr. Sweet, again, there are people that live in this neighborhood. Hold on. There are, excuse me, I can't have people shouting out. I can't have that. Mr. Sweet, there are people that want to speak here. I'm going to let them have an opportunity. Once everyone's done speaking, if you want to come back up again, you can come back up. Yes, sir. You can state your name and address into the microphone.
Bill Reese, 97 East Brookline Drive. After all this is approved, what's to stop the developer from applying for low-income housing and, paying the fee?
Mr. Bach, Mr. Lechner.
So, look, this is not zoned for inclusionary affordable housing. This is zoned for market rate.
Okay.
So
Just the zoning body is going to exclude it,
so it's not included, so it is excluded.
but that cannot be changed.
It could be changed by the same process that we're going through right now. Absolutely, by ordinance, you can change it. If there is no consideration for that, it's not included in the township's affordable housing plan for a site to have inclusionary affordable housing.
Just two other questions, just standard questions. Has a population impact study been, how it's going to affect the schools? How many people possibly kids would join the schools?
Anytime there's any type of application that goes from the planning board for housing, they have to provide an impact study on traffic, on the student population. As you well know, I work for the school district. We have 1,300 units in Valley Brook, and we have less than 100 children that attend our schools. This is 89 townhomes.
So an impact study's been done?
No impact study has
Not
been
until
done.
this is because this is part of the zoning, the zone overlay. Once they move forward with a particular project, Mr. Block, that impact study, that will be provided during the planning board process.
So right now, this ordinance provides standards. There is no application before the planning board or any land use board within the township. This just provides the zoning standards for this property.
At a future date, the traffic studies and the population studies would be done.
Correct. So, Mr. Reese, once whoever the developer may be, the owner sells it to the developer, and they
I'm sure you know who it is, but okay.
I don't, Mr. Reese.
No, what I'm saying, obviously, you said you met with the developer.
I didn't meet with the developer.
Someone has. So
No, I haven't met.
someone knows who it is. Okay. I don't
Mr.
care.
Reese, I have not met with the
I don't
developer.
want to argue over that point. I'm just saying.
Okay, but I just want to correct you for saying something that's not true. So going forward, when that developer puts their application for the planning board, that's an opportunity for residents to sit down and listen about the particular plan and the specifics about that project. So impact studies, that will be provided at that time.
At a future date. Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. Is there anyone else? Ms. Coyne?
While she's coming up, but also,
Okay.
while she's getting ready to come up, it's a maximum of 89, but you understand by the time they go through the street and open space and that, the actual development might come out less than 89. But that's a maximum of 89.
Hello, got your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Danielle Geloni. I live at 7 Rosewood Court, and this program process would directly impact me and my home, my property value. I'd like to ask, is it Carl Mayor? How many times was this meeting, this note, because I was noticed, but then it kept getting canceled and rescheduled, canceled and rescheduled. And I would say that for the 200 people that quote represent the community, that it's really not much of the community. And when you disenfranchise people by a continued process, the impact is that people stop showing up. And I think that that is part of the reason why I know that a minimal of like 200 feet may seem like the community, but clearly we have a representation beyond that wants to be heard. And for me, this will have a negative impact on my day-to-day life, my family, the traffic patterns, the tax structure, our school system, and an already pretty densely populated area. Of the places I've resided, this area has the most representative of most communities that I've been in. You have affordable housing all over the place here. There's such a diversity. There's single family homes. There are condos. There are multiple apartment complexes. And the range with which people can, you could see houses up to $500,000 down to $100,000. So it's not that we don't have housing here. We do. And adding something else in this area will negatively impact the people that chose to reside here under the pretense of the prior resident, a commercial setup. And in fairness to what some of the other neighbors have said, I think doing the bare minimum of notifying, like, I don't know if it's like 6 houses, 7 houses, is to the detriment of this community. And maybe as a planning board, when it's something like this that has such a large impact, and as you can see, as like the deacon spoke to, that we should be grateful for our community. I'm grateful that that you are here present to hear me as someone who was noticed and was able to be here. You have members of the board who aren't able to be here because of their other day-to-day lives. We live in a pandemic. And the fact that you have, continually tabled this, you've disenfranchised people in this community that live within that 200 feet. And it's very sad. It's very sad. And the vote went on in a meeting when no one was here. Why do you think no one was here? Because you disenfranchised them by this process. And now you see, after community awareness, what has been brought to bear. People are not happy about this. And I appreciate that you're here representing someone who is the landowner. They bought this under those pretenses. And as it stands today, I really am not happy about it. I hope that you will not proceed with this. An additional 89 units, 3-story high, to my backyard after I've spent, almost 20 years here. That impacts me in my life in a way that's to the detriment of my family and to this community. And the folks that are here being represented by the attorney, it's about money. They don't live here. I live here. Every day I get up, I go to my job, I go to work, and I reside and I participate in this community. But they're going to leave here. And if you move forward with this, there's opportunity for things to be manipulated continually, as this gentleman asked about, well, what's to stop you from going further down the path to do something that clearly the residents who happen to hear about this are not happy about? There's ample housing in this area. We don't need another 89 units. We just don't, because the detriment is not worth the potential of those 89, additional units to the people that live in proximity. It's just not. And I hope that you will consider squashing this now instead of letting it go forward, where it could continue to be manipulated to become something that is that much worse. So that's my take on this. And I say that I hope that other people who are sitting here will stand and rise. The reason why there's not many of my neighbors here is because, again, they've been disenfranchised by your process, and that we sink to the level of a minimum of notification, which is ridiculous. This is modern times. This is pandemic times. You could either live to like a minimal 200 feet, or you could actually have people have a level of awareness, and you see what happens. People show up. The community shows up because it impacts them directly. And if it's something they're okay with, they may not be here. They probably would say, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to voice my concern. But you could see by the people who had the happenstance, by community awareness that showed up, you see that there is a negative quotient that you need to understand. We live here. They don't live here. They're not going to live with the ramifications of this. I am. I'm going to be directly impacted on this day to day. And you say that like Choose Landing is a highway. It's like a country road in reality. But when you create another set of homes like this, and I know there's other places within the county that could be considered for development, our structures won't support, and we won't even know until you decide to move forward whether it's going to impact us or not. How does that work? Why aren't they asked to provide this information now so you can make an informed choice? Instead, no, we have to do increments. That doesn't work for me. In my job, I'm not allowed to do that. Why is it okay here? It shouldn't be. And that's what you're here to do. You guys are representative of the collective. And everyone, I hope that you all get up here and speak to this so that you could accurately represent us and the impact that it's going to have on our community. Because I'm not happy about it. I'm not having it. It's not having it for me. And it's monumentally unfair, the process that this went through, and the tabling of this and how you've disenfranchised people. So to the other gentleman's point, it would be nice if you expended a notice. I'm not sure if I know it's state law. I don't know if you have to talk to about that, or if there's something within our own municipality that we could aspire to be beyond that because of the great impact that this could have on our community. I mean, is that how do you do that? Can you notice people beyond 200 feet? How many houses was it? How many people were aware when this is affecting Broadmoor, Valley Brook? There's so many, the impact of this is greater than just notifying people 200 feet.
Well, it's every lot owner on the property line, 200 feet from the property line.
It can't be that many, Mr. Carlemere. I appreciate the granularity with which we want to follow, what's written down in paper. But you guys, your remit is to represent us, the community. And if we're going to settle for the bare minimum, I don't know about you guys, come election time, if if we're going to settle for the low level for something that has impact like this, what else can we trust you for? I mean, honestly, I'm being honest. Like, I want to trust you guys.
Danielle, so when 2018, when this property owner wanted to put 200 units there of low and moderate income housing, which is needed in any community, affordable housing. Nope, just.
I'm not saying it's not needed.
No,
I'm saying that right here, it's going to have a negative impact, and I would prefer it not to be. And I appreciate that, like,
Okay.
affordable housing. No, let me finish. I was speaking.
Well, I was speaking, and I was telling you about what happened in 2018.
2018
This
is
property
in the past,
owner-
Mr. Mercado.
This property owner, okay, if it's not townhomes, this property owner is going to come back with another project, and another project, and another project. And they're going to continue to do that.
Okay.
And they're going to litigate. Because unfortunately, as a township, we can't say we don't like something and we can't have it there. Because it's happened before. And we have been sued as a municipality. And who pays for that? All of us here.
Mhm.
So I'm not debating the fact whether it's a good or a bad project, whatever, but I understand your concern.
So you're saying the lesser of the evils in this, of the projects that's been put forth is in maybe
What I'm
maybe
saying
the
is
lesser
you
of
have
the
a
evils.
property owner that is very anxious to unload that property.
Right, but why do we have to change the zoning to accommodate that? If they bought it under those pretenses, right? They bought it knowing that this was a commercial property. And we, the community, were told that. And that's why everybody, I remember this is a long time ago when that went on the bear. And I appreciate the situation that you're in. But again, as someone who's going to be on the back end of this, I'd be hard pressed to say if it was your house, if you would be happy about it. I mean, would you be happy about that? I doubt it. If there's I'm willing, if there's other potentials, I think people are willing to hear it. But again, why do we need to change the zoning to accommodate somebody else when this is part of the process? The community needs to be heard. And although it's a difficult position to be in, why do we have to choose a lesser of the evils? Maybe there's something that's better that will be accommodating to all, right? That's gubernatorial dynamics. When you do what's good for you and the group, right? Then everybody's happy. If you only do what's just good for you, nobody wins. Why should we do that? That we're a community, right? Let's have some community feeling and do what's good for the group and yourself. So I'd like to invite anyone else who'd like to speak to this, who's in proximity, because it will have an impact. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else at this point?
Council President. Can I just say, I just want to, maybe I didn't introduce myself well enough in the beginning.
You're not the attorney and you don't
Yeah,
work for the.
I am not an attorney. I'm an engineer, architect, and planner, and I work for the town, and I'm the appointed planning board engineer. So my job here is representing the town as part of the land use process. Do not work for the developer, have no contact with the developer, and no offense, Dave, not an attorney.
Ms. Coyne?
Denise Coyne, 1062 Laney Road. Can you hear me?
No, is that my,
Hello?
there we go.
Okay, Denise Coyne, 1062 Laney Road. This is a community issue. This is a change in the master plan and the land use ordinance.
And it is going to have a huge impact on the entire community, not just people within 200 feet. And to Mr. Carlemere's point that this went in front of the planning board and was rescheduled numerous times, he's correct, it was. I believe at least 5, if not more. As a result of that, I personally walked neighborhoods this past weekend informing people that there was a chance that this could be on the agenda, and for them to check the agenda because it had been canceled numerous times with the planning board. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are not here tonight because they checked and the agenda was not posted. I checked several times. It was not posted on the website.
I'll have a timestamp and a date for you tomorrow as well.
Okay, but that's tomorrow. Tonight, there should be people here that aren't here. That's not going to help them tomorrow. They should be here tonight. They should have a chance to voice their opinions and their thoughts regarding a master plan change and a land use change tonight. And they're not here because it was not posted. So I think that is a grave disservice to the people that want to be here and aren't. And it's not like, you know, this is just a fluke thing. This has happened over and over and over and over again where people have showed up only to be sent home again. So of course people are going to check to see if it's actually going to happen. They don't want to show up for no reason again. People come home from work, they have kids, they have to get babysitters. They're not going to come to a meeting and be told, oh, sorry, no, lack of quorum, go home. Or, oh, no, it's not on the agenda, go home. They're going to check before they come. So I think, you know, it's very unfair to have this hearing without proper notification, without it being posted on the township's website. So obviously you don't agree and the meeting's going on, so I guess I'll have my say. I found it very interesting that at the planning board meeting, Mr. Hutchison, who's on council as a council liaison to the planning board meeting, said he would not want apartments built in his backyard. But his backyard was not zoned for that. I think his sentiment is echoed by everybody else in this township. The problem is that our elected officials keep changing our zoning to allow for high-density housing to be built on farmland, commercial land, and residential property zoned for single-family homes. As far as I'm concerned, nobody's property is safe. You could buy a house anywhere and think you're in a residential community and you're fine. And that's not the case, because this council constantly changes the zoning to allow for other zoning uses that didn't exist when people bought their homes. So I hope Mr. Hutchison's ready, because pretty soon there could be high density housing in his backyard. The other thing I wanted to say is it was said at the planning board meeting that this development meets 2 of the goals of the master plan. And the 2 goals that were said that this property meets is 1, to provide for the harmonious and efficient allocation and arrangement of land uses and the protection of property values. The second was preserve and enhance the character of the built environment through encouragement of good design. Mr. Lechner is the one that said that this property meets those 2 goals of the master plan. And in my opinion, that's his opinion. Because I don't see how adding traffic to an already over-traveled road that carries 9,000 to 10,000 cars a day on a daily basis is going to improve my property value. I don't see how adding additional school children to the schools, which are already at or nearing capacity, is going to improve my property value. I don't see how adding a 3-story high-density building to an area full of single-family zoned R1 is going to enhance my property value or their property values. I don't see how adding more residential units by sacrificing one of the few pieces of highway commercial properties we have left in the township, especially in the northern third part of the town, is good planning. I don't see how that's going to improve anybody's property values. And it's difficult for any community to survive when most of the tax base comes from residential properties, which is true for Gloucester Township. We have to have a balance of commercial and residential properties. And as far as I'm concerned, it's our township's officials' responsibility to make sure that we have that and that we maintain a proper balance that's going to protect us from having our taxes increase every other year or every year. We are a bedroom community. All of our tax base, most of it, comes from residential properties. And you guys keep adding more high-density housing, more and more of it. We have so many units of high-density housing that's already approved that hasn't even been built. And we heard at the planning board meeting, we need more townhomes. No, we don't. We have 1,000 units that haven't even been built yet. How can you say we need more? There's been no study done that says we need more, taking into consideration all the units that are to be built that haven't been built yet. So I don't understand how these conclusions are drawn up. And to make that point, I said this at the planning board. I'm going to repeat it here, and I'd like it to be put in the record. I did a comparison of Washington Township and Gloucester Township. Washington Township is 1 square mile smaller than Gloucester Township. The population in Gloucester Township, 66,034 people in April of 2020. And Washington Township, 48,677. Gloucester Township had 17,357 more people. The median value of a home in Gloucester Township was $197,700. In Washington Township, $245,500. Washington Township's homes were average $47,800 more in value than Gloucester Township. Persons living in poverty in 2019 in Gloucester Township, 6.4%. Washington Township, 3.8%. Gloucester Township has 2.6% more people living in poverty. The number of households in 2019 in Gloucester Township, 23,248. Washington Township, 17,209. Gloucester Township has 6,039 more households. The interesting thing is Washington Township kept their municipal tax rate the same in 2018 and 2019, 2017 and 2018. In 2019 and 2020, they reduced their municipal tax rate. So it would appear that fewer people and more businesses may be beneficial to a community. And I think our representatives need to take a hard look at that. Because it seems like we have many more people and less businesses. And over the long term, that cannot be good. So I understand that you people are looking at the here and now, but it doesn't seem like anybody's looking to the future. And what happens today isn't going to happen tomorrow. Everything cycles. Real estate cycles, stock market cycles, everything cycles. Home values cycle. So yes, now there is a demand for houses. Will there be next year? We don't know. The year after? Who knows? Is this townhome property going to be half built and then the market crashes? Nobody can predict that. And because nobody can predict that, our officials have to plan for the future. You cannot develop all of our commercial and industrial property with high density housing and expect this community to survive, because it won't. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Sandy Brooks, 2 West Kennedy Drive. Can I ask how many of these you vote down? How many of these type of requests that you've been given to planning board and then it comes back? What's the percentage of that is actually voted down? Because any one I've ever been at is voted in.
I couldn't give you a percentage off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
The thing I'm concerned about is one of the things, and somebody touched on that they're catering to a business owner who's leaving town and won't be paying taxes in the town. What's to prevent homeowners or any businesses to do that? Like, I decide, wouldn't it be great if I could get my home zoned for more property or different structures on my property, because I'm going to sell it. So I want to get, screw everybody else that lives around me because I'm leaving. And if I can get this rezoned, what would prevent them now that the precedence is set that people just make the request and it's almost automatically voted in to make a change?
Mr. Carlemere?
Well, property owner has a right to request any zoning to be changed. This zoning, as Mr. Fox said, is highway commercial. And I don't know what the market is for highway commercial out there. I don't know how, not necessarily my opinion or other people's opinion as to whether living behind highway commercial or big box stores is better than living behind townhouses, residential townhouses. I think big box stores, commercial, bring a lot more traffic than the residential. So the opportunity, I guess the property owner wants to market the property and make that request. From a planning point of view, maybe the planners can correct me if I'm wrong, but it just seems to be a more appropriate if you have residential and commercial, that a good buffer for single-family residential is another residential component, and rather than a big box store, which could be a Walmart sitting there, or a storage where you have a lot of truck traffic and noise traffic, rather than residential. And I can speak for myself, and I know the planners did the same thing when they met with the possibility of this. They wanted higher density. And they wanted less buffering, and they didn't want to do any traffic signals. So it was a negotiated item that it just seemed to be from a planning point of view, and maybe planner can comment if I'm wrong. It just seemed from a planning point of view, if you have commercial and then you have single-family home, and the single-family home is looking at a commercial structure, be it a big box store or a warehouse store or a truck traffic store or auto place sitting right in their backyard, it seems to be more sense to make a buffer between commercial and single family home with some type of residential component. And that's why this seemed to be an appropriate thing to present.
Well, just if you look at Walmarts and Targets and big box stores, they're usually off of a state highway or a county road. I mean, Deptford, that takes over a lot of property, and so does the Walmart that's in Summerdale and the one in Berlin, which is on Route 73. I mean, generally they don't go on a little Shoes Lane Road.
I understand that.
Big property.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but if someone came in and said, this is zoned for highway commercial, and I can put XYZ, if they come in with an appropriate plan that doesn't ask for variances, and they're going to put what's permitted there, you can't deny it.
No, but
So then you're going to live with commercial traffic on Kelly Driver, and you're going to live with commercial traffic on Shoes Landing Road. But if you have a residential component back there with the small store commercial frontage, you're not going to get that impact, in my way of thinking, on the residential community sitting in the back, Kelly Driver and the community right behind that. You're not going to get that commercial impact, because it's going to be the type of stores that are on Shoes Landing Road now. They're going to be small strip type stores. I don't know if the planner wants to see what my thinking is, but
That's absolutely correct.
so that's why the plan was recommended and introduced for first reading, and that's why it goes to the planning board, and that's why the governing body wants to wait and see what the planning board, who are volunteers, what they think of this possible change. And it's an overlay, it's not a total change. The other component is still there. It's still there for a commercial. Am I right, Ken? So it's still there for a commercial. No. This is an overlay zone.
It's Steve Bachman, it replaces.
Okay.
This will replace. It's
Okay.
called an overlay zone,
Okay.
but this zoning will replace the highway commercial.
Okay. So then it'll be residential as it's permitted here with the maximum.
Yeah.
But box stores don't add to our schools. Box
I
stores don't
understand that
add to
argument.
a lot of the,
And
a
I
lot to
respect
bring
that.
it into your, schools are our biggest tax base in our property taxes, over half. And that's gonna have to build schools eventually. They're building, right, yesterday I saw surveyors that are, which was approved, but over by Lewis, the Colton Lewis School and Rite Aid, they're surveying to build homeowners or commercial, not commercial ground, but they're building over there homes, more kids in the school. These schools over here are so up to their almost limit. Now we're gonna have to build more schools. That means our taxes are gonna go up even more. So I know they said it's like putting the cart before the horse in the sense that you're voting on something, you're voting on something without knowing the impact until after. And that is what I think concerns a lot of us, because what that's going to impact in our schools, because, you know, we're at the seams right now as far as most of the schools and high schools as well. Because I know my daughter was a sub before she became a teacher, but she was a sub at all three schools, and they are pretty full at all three schools.
Ms. Brooks, if I can address that, that's not correct.
I don't know, we were a few years ago.
No, that is not correct. We had about 8,000 students prior to the recession in 2008. We have about 6,400 students in our school district, K through 8.
Wait, in K through 8,
K
not
through
talking
8.
high school, I said.
High school is also, their decline, their enrollment is not what it used to be 15 years ago or 10 years ago. The property that you talk about across from Rite Aid and Glen Landing, that was a property owner that sold their property and had $1 million or 2 or 3 reasons to sell that property. And if you're going to sell that property and the developer is going to want to develop that, that's the end result.
No, I'm saying they're building down there. That was
Yes,
already approved.
but that was a property owner that they came to the meeting, they said, we want to preserve this farm and the farmland. No, the property owner sold that property and they made a nice sum of money. You know, the thought of preserving that land.
Do you know what they're putting on it?
Apartments.
Apartments.
Apartments that were approved 2 years ago.
I think it's actually all of us. It's looking more pleasing to live in Washington Township.
Yeah.
That's what I was bringing up.
Okay. Ms. Brooks, do you have anything else?
Yeah, just one thing. I'm gonna shoot some things. Okay, no, I think that's it. But it just makes me mad that if somebody's leaving commercial property and we're catering to them, knowing that they're gonna leave. It's upsetting that there's so many variances and so forth given, and they're not even gonna be here, and then everybody else has to. I mean, if it was a business at one time, he did, like somebody made a good point, they bought it as that business, and they should sell it as that same type of zoning business. Instead of saying, what can you get the most out of, but then they leave it behind after we're all here to pick up the pieces after. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Back.
So I'm a little late to the party. This is my first council
Give your
meeting.
name and your address.
My name is Dina Hendry. Currently, I'm at 1319 Old Black Horse Pike, but hopefully at the end of December, I will have a house here of my own in Gloucester Township. So I decided to come to this meeting to see what is it all about, because soon I will be a taxpayer, just like all of you awesome people here. It's a little concerning to hear that there is going to be 89 townhomes that we don't seem to have the due diligence of knowing what the impact of our schools will be. My kids currently go to Choose, and right now there's 733 students. There's been an increase. Those students or potential students that would go to this in these townhomes would go to Lori Fleming. Lori Fleming, from my understanding, has about 780 students.
Ms. Henry, that's incorrect.
That's the word on the street. I mean, that's what I'm.
That is.
So how many students are in Lori Fleming?
Lori Fleming has a little bit over 700 students, and that is the largest elementary school in our district.
So, but Choose has 733.
They do not have 733, Ms. Henry.
I go,
I know that you're part of the PTA or home and school.
we call it the FSA, choose,
FSA,
yes.
okay. I can provide you that number, but you do not have 700.
That is what the principal told us in our last FSA meeting, that there were 733 students.
I can provide that for you tomorrow.
That would be awesome. Regardless, there is a large amount of students. I played the House Hunger Games for 2 years. There are lots of people, a lot of children coming into our school systems. I don't understand, and like I said, I'm completely late to the party, so I'm completely new to this. But if this was a plan, don't you think that the impact statement would have been done before we say maybe yes or no?
It is a overlay that says they could build up to 89 townhomes and to have a mixed-use development. Nothing has gone before the planning board, whether it is going to be 89. So that impact study, if they move forward with this particular project, they will provide that at the time of the planning board. I'll give you an example. Across from the Board of Education office on Ariel Roads, there is development that was originally called Southwinds. That was approved in 2007. At first, it was not approved. It was turned down because folks didn't like it. That applicant litigated that, and the township had to move forward and approve that plan. They broke ground a year ago, 14 years after that plan was approved. So sometimes other factors may take place. That was fashioned as a Valley Brook-esque like development that had a mixed use of apartments, condos, and townhomes.
Okay.
And have an HOA and then have a pool and all those amenities. But that was, they have people living there now in their apartments. Okay. But that impact study, as I stated earlier, Valley Brook has 1,300 units in Valley Brook, and there's less than 100 children total that attend both the high schools and our elementary schools coming from Valley Brook. I don't know the units here. They have 1,700 square feet, Mr. Bach. That's in this ordinance proposed. So 1,700 square feet, what, 3 bedrooms? Probably.
So there's an occupancy of possibly 6 people per townhome, like 2 heartbeats per bedroom?
It'd be about 3-bedroom townhomes, based on all the projections that we have and all the studies. Who lives in New Jersey by Rutgers, you would not expect that type of population. Similar type of townhomes to Valley Brook is what is anticipated based on.
So what do you keep saying the market value?
Market rate.
Market rate, but what do you think the value of these townhomes would be going for? Like if you had Toll Brothers, right, the development of Toll Brothers building these townhomes, they could possibly go for $350 easily. But if you had somebody like Ryan, it only maybe like $299. So what is the market rate that we are anticipating? Because Toll Brothers would increase our value, right? Because that's a luxury builder. But Ryan Homes, it's kind of like a Honda.
There's no.
I appreciate that. That was good.
But it is. I mean, and I also in the market in multifamily. So I deal with apartments all day long. I deal with low income housing in COA, and I know the ins and outs. Like, yeah, you have 400 units coming in. Only 20 of those are going to be COA. That's not a big deal. But everybody's up in arms. What I'm up in arms is, how is this going to affect our students? Then that also affects our teachers who are already burnt out. And this is not a school of education meeting. I get it. But at the same time, wouldn't we think that we have done the research before we come up with the plan? Like, if I'm going to tell my boss I have this great idea, I need to do my due diligence before I present my idea. That's just what I'm saying. Okay.
So, Mr. Bach, when Ms. Henry was talking about what market rate, I would say north of 300.
Again, there's no development application.
Yeah, there is no application, but
there's no developer.
But it's market rate.
Yeah,
there is no affordable housing there.
Correct, but market rate, we don't know what market rate is. It could be just a dinky townhome that will decrease, or it could be Toll Brothers.
I would say it would be similar to other townhomes within the township that are currently being constructed and what the values they would be, because that is what the zoning would permit.
And then you said something about a strip mall. Isn't it would be commercial use, but the shop rate has like strip mall, and there's empty stores there that's been empty for a while. Like, I don't think we need another nail salon. Granted, I love a good pedicure, but I don't think we need another nail salon. And I don't think that we need another pizzeria. So what new businesses are we going to entice for this strip mall? I mean, is it going to be an adult sex store? Is it going to be another cannabis? Like, what is it?
Lou, don't get excited about that. That is something for the developer. It's a 23,000 square foot single floor, so it's a flat type of development, but that's something for the developer to bring in businesses there. And I don't know what it would be earmarked for. But one of the things that this ordinance has is that when those townhomes are constructed, 50% of it has been constructed, that there has to be a certificate of occupancy for that 23,000 square foot commercial space. So we just can't have something barren there. So that has to be ready to go.
But don't you think that we would fill what we already have as opposed to like building something else?
Well, it's based on need. You know, there are certain businesses that we've had in this township when you go down Blackwood, Clementon corridor, or you go down downtown Blackwood. You know, if you're putting in something, you know, when you take a look at Friendly's, okay, for example, Friendly's has been vacant for quite some time. You know, their business model, okay, was not something that was working here in our township. You know, the Denny's, you know, they took they opened for a while, they closed, and they reopened again 3 years ago. And me and my son, we like to spread the wealth when we go to breakfast after church. And we went there, and it's like I had to wait 15 minutes, and there was no one there. And, you know, you have shriveled up sausage. And I say, this is why this Denny's does not succeed.
True story.
You know, and so it is based on what the market needs, what our residents need, and what the demands are. You know, we have a vacant Kmart there that I hate seeing there. You know, but I remember a time when the Cinemark in Summerdale, when that was destitute, the only thing that was left there was the Cinemark. But they rebuilt around that Cinemark there, and it's a vibrant commercial development area there. So, yes, there are things we would love to infill what we have. But here's an opportunity for this property owner not to have something that all of us wholeheartedly wouldn't want there. Do we want to auto repair? Mr. Bach provided a list of things that could go.
No, you have Mavis down the street. It makes no sense.
Yeah. But now I'm saying that you could have a Firestone right next to it. Or you could have another commercial property there. Or you could have trucks. Mr. Carlin has talked about, you know, a Target and a Walmart's not going to go there. But you don't have trucks coming in the middle of the night dropping things off, you know, or 5 a.m. making noises, or dumpsters, you know, the trash, waste management coming to pick up the trash at 5 a.m. So those are some things that could take place. And we're not saying that it is, but it's a possibility.
Understood. One last thing, as a marketing person who works on websites, when you post the agenda, if you had like a timestamp that everybody can see, so therefore there isn't a confusion of when it got posted, it didn't get posted, then we can just easily bring it up on our phones and say, oh, it got posted, you know, Thursday at 12 o'clock or 17 hours ago. So just a minor suggestion.
You know what? And I will ask for that, Ms. Hendrick, because that'll alleviate some of the concerns regarding
I love
that.
transparency.
One,
So
one thing, we have a quorum here, and we don't cancel our council meetings here. So, you know, we're here the second and fourth Monday of each month, 7:30. This is where you'll find me. So, no, people should have access to that ordinance. The agenda. And when Nancy tells me that it's posted, I believe that it's posted.
Yeah.
And so we'll get confirmation for everyone.
awesome.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Ms. Hendrick. Anyone else? Gentleman in the back. Lou, you're holding him up, Lou. Come on, let him come up. Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening. John Crescenzo, 1839 Downs Avenue.
Okay.
So I live directly behind where the new development's going to be. Downs Avenue, low density, one house per 1 or 2 acres. I'm all for growth, change. I think it's good for the neighborhood when it's done tastefully. You have single family homes 1 story, 2 stories, 3 stories. It just doesn't make sense to me. Do we really need 3-story giant townhomes right in the middle of our town? We moved in here, it was quaint, it was beautiful. They put an auto repair shop right up the street from us. I drive by at night, I hear the noise. It just doesn't fit. So let's try to do something here where it fits into our situation. And that's what I have to say about it. Thanks.
Are you Frank's friend who's been calling me?
Excuse me?
You're Frankie's neighbor?
Yes, I'm Frank's neighbor, yes.
Steve, Mr. Bach, are we married to 3 stories, or that's the maximum building height, 3 stories?
Yes, 3 stories to 35 feet, which is the acceptable townhouse standard within the township.
Okay, so it's possible whomever this developer of this property, if it goes forward, could come in at 2 stories rather than 3.
As Mr. Carlemere said, it could be lesser of any of the standards that we have in this ordinance. It could be less than 3 stories, yes.
So the opportunity for our neighbors and residents to have their say is during that planning board process, whenever this application is made for this, for the
If it's
development.
in the ordinance, it is going to be permitted up to 3 stories. But it's also, if you recall, well, maybe you don't recall, it's up to 35 feet, which is the same as all the single-family residences.
Oh, no, single-family homes in our development are,
No, in your development, but permitted within the town is 35 feet total in height.
I understand that.
So every single-family home within the township can be 3-story or 35-foot height. So even though they're not, but they could be.
Understood.
Council President, most of the townhomes that we've seen in the township are, the first floor is the garage and small living area. And
Yes,
the
that's-
habitable areas
that-
on the 2nd and 3rd floors.
Right. That's fine for another area, not the center of our town. Not 3 stories sticking out of the ground. That's what I have to say. Thanks for hearing me.
Thank you, John. Before we have our next speaker, our clerk would send me little notes here, okay, regarding the posting of our agenda.
So I do have the confirmation email from Thursday, November 18th at 4:58 PM that the agenda was sent. I also have confirmation from our IT people, Blue Wire Media, that it was uploaded on Thursday evening at 6:58 and was live online. It was checked again on Saturday between 12 PM and 1 AM, and it was checked again Sunday evening. So the agenda was posted on time, and if anyone else checked it, I would like to know that so that we can give some information back to them, because I know I accessed it myself on Friday to check a couple of documents, and the agenda was there. So I'm not sure why that is being said, but if anyone else tried to access it, I also walked about 4 people through it this morning around 10 AM to navigate through our system to access the agenda, and it was there this morning also. This evening, the addendum was uploaded at 4:15 and was live, only the addendum. So the agenda was on the website all weekend from Thursday evening on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Power. Anyone else would like to speak? Shaughnessy?
Good evening. My name is Shaughnessy Smithman. I live in Millbridge Gardens Apartments. I wanted to ask if I could.
Could you move a little closer to the mic? I'm
Sure.
hard to hear
There
you.
seemed to be some confusion as to identify when things change and when they don't, especially when there's upcoming events. People seem to have different information. What is the phone number that people can call if everybody is connected socially through their phones for their convenience? What is a phone number that one person could call every day to see if a meeting is scheduled or postponed?
The main number, 856-228-4000. They can reach the switchboard they could press out for whichever department that they're trying to reach.
Which department would that be for these meetings?
So the clerk's office, this clerk's office.
So they would just push the option for the clerk's office?
Yes, if there's the operator will transfer them through.
And then they would tell them, and then they could interconnect together to know when a meeting was to occur.
Yes,
From what I understand, there was an actual written sign posted somewhere with an incorrect time.
that sign was not posted by the township.
I understand, but some residents did respond to that sign. It was fortunate that it was to arrive early at the meeting with the time being incorrect. But if the time had been posted for, say, the meeting started at 10 p.m., people would have missed the meeting. So now they're aware that they can call every day if they like to see when an agenda item is going to be presented. So if it ever changes, I hear that you're putting in homes. It's a zone commercial. You want to put in homes. As a resident that does not drive at this time and lives in an apartment complex, the amount of money that Millbridge Gorge charges is over $1,000 per month, and that does not include utility. It was about 5 years ago, the price was about $750, and it included heat and hot water. As someone who's been driving since approximately 1994 in the state of New Jersey, it's very expensive to drive a car in New Jersey. It costs almost as much as rent if you don't know how to fix a car, which is me. To keep it fully insured and functioning. And then once my son became old enough to drive, many years ago, he's now 28 years old, it was close to $35,000 a year just to insure him. And that's before he actually had the car. It's just to insure a regular car for a person. You're putting in homes. There's people that live in these apartment complexes. There's no place for them to work to make enough money to pay for the rent, for their home or their mortgage or the taxes, including to pay for the car to get them there. There's only one bus, the 459.
Ms. Shaughnessy, folks, can we keep the chatter down? I'm having a hard time hearing Ms. Shaughnessy. Thank you.
There's only one bus that runs hourly, Monday through Friday, once per hour. And on Saturday, it's much less. It's like an hour and a half in between. And Sunday, it's even less than that. I believe the last bus runs at around 6 p.m. on Sunday. Whether you zone it commercial or residential, the people that live within the community, there's just no access for them to get to a place of employment living in this town. I just would hope that the town considers that for people that are not yet driving, because it costs everything just to get the car. And if you want them to stay within the town to work and live and keep the town growing, it might be helpful to take that into consideration, either possibly speaking with the public transportation to increase the amount of busing. Route 130, I heard them bring up several times. Route 30, where the Summerdale, Walmart, and such is, that bus runs every half hour. That is a huge difference, especially in the wintertime, for someone to, by the time you get to the bus stop, you have to wait. It's very difficult to have employment. I arrive places up to 2 hours early just because of how the busing is not properly, it's not very convenient. But this is a driving community. This is New Jersey, we drive. From where I was raised, if it's past your mailbox, you drove. That was it. But it's very expensive, and if it was zoned commercial, you don't pay somebody enough to be able to afford the car. And if it's zoned for housing, those people need to find a place to work to pay for the cars, to get them to the places they need to go. For growth within the community, I would hope you would take those things into consideration with your planning.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Shaughnessy?
No, that's it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Krug?
Evening, Council. Paul Krug, Blackwood Estates. Just had a suggestion on the timing, a way to announce it or notify. Obviously, I've been coming here for quite a while. I got it all plugged into my phone for the schedule. I know it's 7:30, but back when I was going to the township website, I would often go to the agenda and look on the agenda. The date is there, November 22nd, 2021. If we could add the time as well to that, I think that could be helpful. So the 7:30 p.m., just along with the date. So when people find the agenda, it's also easy to find the date and the time. Just
Nancy, let's put that on. Thank you.
thank you,
Mr. Cruz.
appreciate that. I'm not particularly a stakeholder in this. I've just been listening as my fellow citizens have come up. And I suppose the argument that most resonates with me is that of removing the commercial zoning, because as you and I know, I've often had conversations with you about trying to diminish the impact on the homeowner from a tax burden perspective. And one thing that's, I guess, come back as a rebuttal to me is that we're a bedroom community, I think is the phrase, and that the homeowner has to bear a lot of the taxes of this township due to how it was planned earlier. So if this is one of the limited commercial spaces that we have, to set that over to, once again, being on the residents' dime, maybe we should reconsider that, because I know we've had discussions about how Cherry Hill has more businesses and the load of the tax burden is able to be split with the businesses. Maybe we should consider keeping the commercial zoning for that to better balance the burden here. So I would ask council to consider that. The other thing I heard, and I'll speak to my fellow citizens here, is the disenfranchisement of the citizen. Brian is here, a fellow citizen who is here with me bi-weekly throughout the year, requesting more open space. So I would suggest, fellow citizens, if you want change, it takes persistence and clear communication. Brian and I are here on a bi-weekly basis. Would love to see this many fellow citizens with us, and happy to support Brian and ask for more open space, but that's going to take us all. Thank you.
Thanks. Ms. Gill?
Hi, Linda Gilch, 1030 R9 Avenue, Glendora. I just have a question. Do we have a committee or a department that markets businesses in this township?
We have Triad Associates as our economic development consultant, and we also have the Economic Development Corporation, which does mostly downtown Black.
So are we invited?
They also work with the mayor.
Okay, so we are invited to any of those economic development meetings? Are they open meetings? I mean, we have a lot of empty buildings.
You asked me a question.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna respond to that.
You know how I am.
Yeah, I know how you are.
Mhm.
So we've known each other for a long time, folks. Those meetings, they have monthly meetings. Triad Associates provides, they work on the agenda, they do minutes for it. The Economic Development Corporation, they meet on, Mr. Carter, do you know they are, Mr. Cardis, when they meet? It's monthly, but Mr. Lechner, because you go to those
The
meetings.
second Thursday of every month.
And public's invited to that?
Well, the meetings have been virtual,
Okay.
so we haven't met publicly. But
Were they prior
to
public?
virtually, yeah, they didn't object to someone being public.
Is that posted anywhere when they are?
I
Or
don't
could it
believe
be
so.
posted?
I don't believe the economic development person meets. Private economic.
So it's a private corporation. So essentially, then no one's invited if it's private.
There is,
Is that what, I mean, if it's private, then we're not invited.
I think they have people that come to the meetings that I have heard about. It's not that.
I'd be just interested in seeing who's going out and marketing. We have a lot of empty spaces around here, and we need more rateables in this township. And I would like to be a part of that if I could,
Okay.
or to find out if you're able to attend, or if anybody in this township's able to attend, and see exactly what they're marketing and who they're marketing. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Lechner, hold on before we.
Just to answer the residents' questions, we did, before the pandemic, have a business breakfast every year. And we also, the mayor has the GT Works newsletter that comes out every week, marketing new businesses in the township, as well as the Economic Development Corp. They have their own web page on the township's website, economic development, that you could view to see what's on there and if you had any comments.
Thank you, Mr. Lechner. Yes, ma'am. Lou, you had your hand up. You'll be after her, okay?
I just have a question.
When she's done. Ms. Dugan, how are you?
Elizabeth Dugan, Blenheim. I am well, thank you. I'm just trying to understand the process. Obviously, I just said that I don't live near Little Pond development. It seems like, just as a general rule, that we are just building things because a developer will come to us and say, hey, I want to build some residential property. Hey, I want to build some commercial property. And it doesn't feel like to me that somebody sits down and says, okay, this is what we want to do with the Choose Landing area, and this is what we want to do with the Blackwood area, and specifically, Blackhorse Pike, and this and that. Because there's empty commercial buildings right now, and, it irks me a little bit that we're going to build new commercial property. I mean, it sounds nice, all those places that you named, bars and restaurants and whatever. Who doesn't want that? But and I think that we have a lot of homes. So I just don't feel like that there's an overall plan. It's kind of like the going after the shiniest thing in the sky as far as development of the township.
There are things that the township does, for instance, a master plan. And there's master plans that are done for specific areas, a redevelopment study or redevelopment plan that Mr. Lechner is intimately involved with. And we, for instance, we just completed something for downtown Blackwood. And Mr. Krug has been coming here for years talking about how that master plan just sits on a shelf and collects dust. But there is planning that takes place. There's different factors that affect it, market factors, external factors that will affect it. But there is planning that takes place, and that's under the direction of Mr. Lechner and his department. So it's not haphazard that someone shows up like, hey, I want to throw this here or there. There is some thought that's put into it on the planning side of things. Mr. Lechner, do you want to add to that, or you're fine? Okay.
Quickly, Township's master plan was done in 1999. And in 1999, since the present day, a lot of what's on Berlin Cross Keys Road is not there. Most of Berlin Cross Keys Road is now developed with stores and businesses, all highway commercial zone. The town has been criticized about Blackwood Clementon Road. A lot of what's on Blackwood Clementon Road has been redeveloped. There's the Cherrywood Shopping Center. Yes, Kmart is closed, but that is a national issue with Kmart and Sears. Blackwood redevelopment plan, we re-examined it. We have a project that's part of the plan, a makerhood. I've said it now several times here, and there's a developer interested in doing that, bringing development into downtown Blackwood. So it's not, no disrespect, it's not haphazard. There is a plan. There was a plan to develop Berlin Cross Keys Road commercially. It is commercial. There is a plan for to redevelop Blackwood Clementon Road. It is being redeveloped. There's a lot of new businesses. There's hardly any, except for the Commerce Square 1 and 2. Blackwood Clementon Road, to me, is looking pretty good. You have AutoZone, you have the Favorites, Starbucks, this little shopping center there, the Blackwood Fire Department, Dunkin' Donuts. So there's a lot of commercial activity on Blackwood Clementon Road. Any property owner who also pays taxes is entitled to make an application to the planning board for development that's a permitted use. And if it's not a permitted use, they're entitled to make an application to the zoning board for what we call a use variance. And there's procedures to be followed under those situations. So there's been a lot of positive development, in my term here in Gloucester Township.
Thank you, Mr. Lechner. Ms. Dugan?
Mr. Lechner, I completely disagree with the Black and Clement Road assessment. Absolutely not. Secondly, so it warms my heart that we're working off of a master plan that was developed when I was 23 years old.
Ms. Dugan, there are parts of that.
I am going to be 45 in less than a week.
Ms. Dugan, there are parts of
Yes,
it
sir.
that, as there's redevelopment areas and plans and studies that take place, that's the basis of it, but they sprout out from that master plan.
I mean, do you think it's time to reevaluate that? Because, I mean, even though you don't think it seems haphazard, these things just keep popping up like, oh, let's put, 89 townhomes here. And, oh, let's put 400 homes near Penco Tech or apartments, whatever they are. I just don't, it doesn't seem like there's any rhyme or reason. And maybe, reevaluating a plan from 1999 would be a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? Oh, Lou.
Lou Orsini, Cameron Circle. I just have one question, and if I may get back to the ordinance, I know if not, I'll sit down. The ordinance about the cannabis dispensary. Is this the building or area that they're building right now on Black Horse Pike, south of about a quarter mile south of Skeeters on the left-hand side? Because I drive by there all the time, and it was always like a wooded area. It looked like a hunting camp where you had a road going up, a dirt road going up, where there's high tension wires. Now it's all clear, and there's all plumbing pipes all over the place. They're building there. Is this the area where the cannabis?
No, that's townhouses.
They're townhouses. Was there a meeting that I missed on that? There was?
2005.
2005? Well, I don't know how I missed that one. Sorry.
Thank you.
How many townhouses? Do you know?
This was the project that was spoke about earlier. It was approved originally in 2000. Well, it was denied in 2005. They had developer filed an action rule prerogative writ with Superior Court, and there was a settlement to approve it. It's finally was sold to a new developer who's actually building it now under construction. 220 apartments, a 100-unit affordable housing apartment, and 158 townhouses off the Black Horse Pike.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Orsini. Anyone else has not spoken? Yes, ma'am. Sorry to point, folks.
Good evening. Roseanne Kuchansky. I live on 4 Farnham Court. I'm confused. I came to the planning board meeting 2 weeks ago. And at that time, I heard that the property was not for sale. It is for sale. We have a buyer. We have a
I
buyer.
can relay that I did not have any information
No.
on the property owner's sale, not sale.
All right, when we came, you did not know anything about it. My understanding was it's not for sale, but CBD Realty is involved. Pettit Associates are involved in getting this together. So how do you not know what's going on when we know there's a realty company involved and we know there's architects involved? Is it for sale? Who is benefiting? Mr. Lee, the owner?
I imagine Mr. Lee, the
All right.
property, yes,
Who's
wants to sell the
pushing
property.
this forward? Who is the township pushing this forward?
The township's not pushing this forward. Mr. Lee's the property owner that wants to unload that property.
Okay, so the planning board doesn't know anything about this, doesn't know the realty company, doesn't know the architects, we have no plan. All that we know is what you're telling us about this great,
I can't answer as to whether or not there's a contract for sale. Or
right,
any agreement between Mr. Lee or whoever. What comes to my mind is Tenant Associates is involved in our fair share of litigation that's coming up. How he's playing in this is just not coming to my memory right now.
If I may. So Pennant Associates prepared the concept plans that we spoke about.
right.
So they're the ones that originally had an apartment proposal that we spoke about. And again, it was for the
The
owners.
$200.
It was for the owners over 200 apartment complexes. At the planning board, I believe what I relayed was, we can't talk about the economics, who's selling what or anything else, because we were reviewing the ordinance as a planning board under consistency with the master plan and for planning. We cannot talk about economics as part of our land use board proceedings.
Well,
So that's why I did not want to speak about who is selling what and where it's going, all that stuff. That was not the planning board's purpose, and it cannot enter into their deliberations when they're reviewing it for the
Right.
master plan amendment and ordinance consistency.
but the planning board can just change the master plan. We're going to do this no matter whether people come and are disturbed by this. We sit, we listen to you. And then at the end, everybody goes, yay, 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 yay. And one no. One no last week, 2 weeks ago. So, all I'm saying is, it's Shoes Landing Road's a mess now. And to say that you're going to check things out after the fact, who does that? Who does that? Who says after the fact? Nancy Pelosi? We haven't one of her numbers? Yeah, you'll find out what the hell it is after, we have it. It's ridiculous. So, it's bad for us, and what they're putting down, those 200 apartments or whatever, it's another thing that's bad. And then what are they going to do with the property by St. Agnes? That's another property that's going to go up. That is not beneficial to the township or to the citizens.
Thank you. In the back.
Hello, I'm Sherry Walsh, 7 Laurelwood Court.
Hi.
I'm 37. I've lived in Gloucester Township for 37 years. I lived in Glen Oaks. I lived in Wyoke. I have lived on West Annapolis Drive. And now my latest house, my second home that I've owned, is on Laurelwood Court. The reason why we stayed in Gloucester Township is my husband works for the township. I've lived through a lot of development. I've lived through multiple housing structures being built around my home. I've lived through businesses and Targets being put in my backyard. And now, again, facing another development project right down the street from the one property that was keeping us in this development. I went to high school in Highland High School. I've lived through a very populated area in which we had staggered sessions. I went to school at 9:30 in the morning and didn't get out until about 4:30. I also played sports and I didn't do homework until about 9 p.m. at night. I don't want my son to live through that. I'm now a taxpayer. I'm living through multiple properties being built around my home, businesses. My parents still live in Wyoke, which there's townhomes being built directly behind their home, which was a farmland. All the trees are gone and now they have a nice view of Lowe's. And now, they're in a predicament where they feel like they might have to move because of all the traffic that's being built and that's coming through their neighborhood to get to Cross Keys Road, which was a dirt road when we moved there. So there's a lot of development. I don't know what the middle ground is for this particular property. What I would suggest in my proposal would be, single-family homes, or maybe a community for 55 and older. I think that might mitigate some of the population with the schools and our property values. And that would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wall. I see your hand, Ms. Corin, but I'm going to let people speak before we come back to you again because you already spoke. Mr. Burns?
Good evening, Council. Brian Burns, 5 Solwood Drive. Just for the record, I did not see the agenda posted, and I checked over the weekend a couple times. So I don't know why some people got it, some people didn't, but that's neither here nor there. I did want to thank Mr. Carlemere, who told me earlier this evening the appraisals have been sent out. For those residents in the room tonight who are not familiar, I've been beating the open space drum for years. And within the last 6 months, the township has saved 45 acres, and there's another 100 acres on the way. So they are totally not deaf to what you are saying tonight, but we need more open space. I guess one of my questions is, regardless of how a property is zoned, if a property owner, let's say it's zoned residential, whatever it may be, can that property still be purchased as open space, even though it's not designated open space on the master plan? So the answer is yes. And need I remind council that there's still $1 million available through Green Acres for that purpose. So perhaps, we listen to the people who showed up here tonight because what's going on is in their backyards. And if you remember the last council meeting I was here, talking about the 200 feet, that 200 feet is about pretty much from where I stand out to the parking lot. So if you were to close your eyes and think about your house, and 200 feet from your house, which is from here to where you're probably parked, a 3-story building is going to go up. What does that do to your lifestyle? What does that do with your perception of where you live? We all have heard the experiments. You put too many rats in a cage, and what happens? They start getting aggressive, and they start attacking each other because of the stress that's created from, an overpopulation.
And Brian, I understand that. We talked about it's statutory. It's through the state they established that 200 feet. If I told you as an applicant, no, I need you to notice people 1,000 feet away from your property, you're going to sue the township. And you're going to say, no, the state law requires that it's 200 feet.
Okay, how's this for an idea? I understand you got to abide by the law, 200 feet. Why can't the township say, let's have more transparency, and on our website, we're going to pass an ordinance that any disruption of an acre or more, we're going to post it on the website. And it'll be the people's responsibility to go check for it. But at least you're putting it out there and saying that, 500 feet from your house, we're going to disturb 5 acres of ground because the planning board is, looking at an applicant's application to do X, Y, Z. You don't find out, if you're 205 feet, and 3-story buildings are going against your property, it just doesn't seem fair to the residents, many who have been here for years and years and years and paid their taxes and all that, and they don't know about it unless they dig deep and they look at the planning, board's agenda, which most people don't. People are too busy raising their families and going to work and, living their day-to-day lives. But if you had something on the website, just every time a new proposal, let's say more than an acre of land is going to be disturbed, you can post it there. And if they come here and complain, you can say it was on our website, it was open public knowledge, and you wouldn't have to, other than the 200 feet, everybody in the community would know what's going on. As a taxpayer, I want to know what's going on beyond 200 feet from my property. I like to know what's going on all over the township because my taxpayers' money just doesn't go 200 feet behind my house. It goes throughout the entire community. And I would have a right to know that if they're going to put up, a couple hundred apartment buildings, which is going to impact the traffic that I have to travel every day. Yeah, that's important information to me. It's probably important information to everybody else who's here this evening. So just, I think that's a reasonable request. It's not a law. I know you don't have to do it, but in the name of transparency, and to all the residents who live here, we'd like to know what's going to go on beyond the 200 feet. And it wouldn't be that hard to do. I mean, the planning board knows what's coming in the door, what people are talking about. So if you're going to disturb a half acre or an acre, that's something council can decide for themselves. Post it on the website, and if people come here and complain, so you didn't say anything about it, well, it's on the website. It's right there. It's open to public knowledge, and you've been notified about it, and you can certainly attend the planning boards and speak your mind and so on. But the important thing, I think, from my comments tonight, the township still has $1 million available in green acres, and I hate to see that money returned to the state. So maybe let's look at some of these proposed developments and say maybe that would get better off as open space, because we need it. Less than 6% of Gloucester Township has been left open, and that to me is not quite acceptable. We're definitely moving in the right direction. So for the people here tonight, when this new property is acquired, it'll be right across from the Gems landfill. Okay, it's going to be between the property that's being acquired, and that's already been acquired, and an HOA. It's almost 200 acres of open space, undeveloped land. There's springs back there. There's beaver ponds. It's an amazing ecological preserve. And, I have to give credit to the township, regardless of how you feel tonight, that they're doing this. And it is important for all of us to have a place to go and enjoy nature and get away from the traffic and the stores and everything else that's in our community. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Is there anyone else that wants to speak that has not spoken yet? Oh, yes, Mr. Lackner. So, Mr. Sweet, you'll be our last speaker. Ms. Coyne and Mr. Sweet, they'll be our last two speakers.
In response to Mr. Burns, the planning board and the zoning board's agendas are posted on the township's website on Thursday, at least given to the webmaster on Thursday, and they are posted for any application, even if it's not required to give public notice. So every resident in the township has the opportunity to check the planning board schedules and the zoning board schedules. It's clearly marked a button for each board from the department's web page. All the minutes are posted, all the application that's submitted, the engineer's reports, minutes of the meetings, everything but the resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Lackner. Mr. Sweet?
Sam Sweet from Ariel. Just to follow up, never got an answer as to why, and I wasn't the only one who didn't see that posted when we went. Several other people, and I'm sure if we took a poll, a straw poll, there would be more than 4 or 5 people that we had say that that agenda wasn't posted. So do we?
Sam, you didn't hear Ms. Powers.
I understand that came from the IT department, but this is the same IT department that, hold on, Mr. Mercado, same IT department that we're paying a fund.
No one's trying to pull a fast one on anything.
Okay, but
and again, if I come back tomorrow and I don't have the timestamp of Thursday, I will let you know and I'll let everyone else know.
But that's
These
tomorrow.
things are posted on Thursday.
Okay, but not only me, you just heard Mr. Burns say it, you heard Ms. Coyne say it. We can take a straw poll of other people here, and they're going to say the same exact thing, that it wasn't posted. So I can't, if I was the only one, I would agree with you. But I'm not the only one. And you're relying on an IT department that still has not updated, that we're paying money for, has not updated Chuck Palumbo's address for our tax assessor.
Let's stay on topic.
Well, I'm just saying we're relying on an IT department that hasn't done their job. So I would say that why are we relying on them when they haven't done their job?
Mr. Sweet, we paused our meeting for 10 minutes so Ms. Power can go back there because you feel that maybe perhaps we're trying to hide something and not post our agenda. I don't do that. We don't play that here. I don't cancel our meetings. We show up.
I didn't say you did.
No. But here's the thing. So we're spending our time talking about whether that agenda was posted or not. Ms. Power is not tied to any of this. She is the township clerk. She's not gonna jam herself up by telling a story up here. She doesn't get
I'm not
elected or
saying-
reelected.
I'm not
Okay?
saying that she
So,
did.
Ms.
I'm
Powers,
saying-
excuse me, Ms. Powers, our township employee, okay, has told you that she sent this over to have posted and have confirmation that she was on it over the weekend.
But
And
other-
I know, other people didn't see it.
So then
okay?
we need to
But how
find out why. And tomorrow is too late. In reference to Mr. Carlemere, he has stated that we've done our due diligence or announcing of it, but normally, if it's a normal council agenda meeting, doesn't it need 48 hours notice? Yes or no, Mr. Carlemere?
This is a regular council.
Okay, regular council meeting.
Council meeting has been already posted at the beginning of our year. So only
Can-
on a
can
special
you
meeting,
an-
when you're doing a special unlisted meeting, you have to post your agenda.
So a regular council meeting does not need the agenda posted?
Regular council meetings are already announced. If you have something like an ordinance, then you have to give those.
Okay, so then this should, regardless of whether it was or was not posted, this should have been posted 48 hours in advance, which we're saying, people in the audience are saying it's not, you're saying it is, you're saying you have the proof. I'm not disputing that proof, other than that we're relying on a company that has not done their job in the past.
Well, with all due respect, I take my job very serious. I think you know that, as does every person in this audience here. I have proof that I sent it to them. They have sent me proof that it was uploaded on Thursday evening. I personally went on our website to check a couple of things because, believe it or not, I pretty much do work a lot on the weekends also. Now, they did say that they uploaded their system on Saturday, but they did timestamp again on Saturday and on Sunday evening. So I'm not sure if anyone else tried to access it. I can't explain why you wouldn't have been able to, but I personally did, and as I stated earlier, this morning I walked several residents through our website to obtain the agenda for themselves, and it was there.
This morning it was.
In my office, but you said that it wasn't there until this evening.
No, I didn't. I said this morning. It was there this morning. It was not there Sunday, Saturday, Friday, Thursday, backtracking.
Okay, well, like I said, I take pride in what I do. and
Never
if
said
it
you
was
didn't.
not there, we will get to the bottom of it, but I can attest to that it was there. Our Blue Wire Media said they uploaded it. It was there. They timestamped it, and they're going to send me screenshots of it tomorrow morning. I will make sure that is forwarded to you. However, in the past, when the agenda has not been on the website, you yourself have notified me. Why would you not contact me to allow me to find out if there was a problem, contact them and upload it?
Well, Friday, the offices are closed.
Not Friday, today.
All right,
All day
because today it was uploaded and it was there.
You could also send me an email, Denise could have, and said, hey, people are looking for this. It's not up there, Nancy. Someone could have brought it to my attention if that were the case. Because as you know, I am available 24/7 for questions.
Okay,
So out of
but-
respect, in the future, if you see something and you know that I'm able to fix it for all of our residents, please do so in the future.
I didn't know you were
Because I'm sure they would
available
have
24/7
appreciated
for
that.
an email. And I figured the office was closed on Friday and then Saturday, Sunday, and would respect your weekend.
You have
So-
contacted me on Fridays. I have been there for you and I have answered you and I have assisted you in multiple things. And I would have been happy to allow the residents access to something. And if you knew about it, I'm very upset that you did not bring it to my attention because that would have helped our residents. Thank you.
Love how this gets turned around on me now all of a sudden.
Not at
You
all.
guys are very
What
good
else
at
do you
that.
have?
You guys are very good at that.
Thank you. Ms. Coyne?
Denise Coyne. Something that really concerns me about this ordinance is I believe that if you approve it tonight, you're going to set a precedent for anybody else to come along and do the same thing. And so I'm wondering, there's a lot of empty space going down Kelly Driver Lane that abuts this property. And I'm wondering what's to keep the landowner from the property next door and the property, 2 pieces of property away, and the property down the street that's vacant from ending up the same way. One zone farmland was to prevent somebody from coming and saying, I want to put 400 units of high density housing on this farmland. You let Little Pond. What's going to prevent somebody from doing that?
Those are hypotheticals,
Not really.
Ms. Coyne.
It's setting a precedent. That's not hypothetical. You're setting a precedent. Mr. Lechner got up a few minutes ago and explained how it works. If you have a piece of property and you want to develop it and, you know, it's not zoned for what you want to do, you go to the zoning board. That's how it's supposed to work. That isn't how this is working. You're bypassing the zoning board. You're allowing a builder to build on a piece of land something that isn't supposed to be built there. You guys were talking about the master plan when Liz was up here talking about the overall plan for the township. The overall plan for the township is the master plan. The master plan shouldn't just be willy-nilly changed. And if you guys allow this, you're setting a precedent for other people to come in and have zoning willy-nilly changed everywhere. Anybody that comes to buy a piece of property in Gloucester Township will not be safe from anything being built next to them. If you want to buy a nice piece of property that's zoned R1 and retire and enjoy the rest of your life on your property, chances are you won't be able to, because you could end up with 89 homes in your backyard. And I don't see how that is protecting anybody's property value. It just doesn't make sense. Why have a master plan? Why have a zoning board? I mean, I would like somebody to explain that to me. How does it even make sense to allow this? Why should you overlay property? You have a master plan. You have a zoning board. If it doesn't belong there, it doesn't belong there.
So you would be comfortable with a property owner selling that property to a developer to put more commercial on that parcel of land?
Do you understand there's
No,
commercial there?
No.
ShopRite is right there.
Additional commercial.
ShopRite is
Would
right
you-
there.
I mean, would you be, no, it's zoned for commercial.
I
If we-
understand that.
If we throw this ordinance out, you're comfortable in having a commercial property there?
I am.
Really?
Yes. ShopRite is already there. Part of the argument.
Well, were you here when the folks came,
Can I
when
finish,
Mavis
please?
was here?
Can I finish? Please.
Well, go
You were
ahead.
speaking earlier about how, you know, if it's a commercial property, there's going to be tractor trailers going up and down the road at 5 a.m. Trust me, there's tractor trailers going down Shoes Landing Road at 5 a.m. There's tractor trailers going down Shoes Landing Road at 4 a.m. There's tractor trailers going down Shoes Landing Road at 3:30 a.m. How do I know? Because I hear them every single night. ShopRite is a commercial property. Okay? You're talking about, oh, there's going to be more traffic if it's commercial property. How do you think people get to ShopRite? ShopRite is packed almost every single day. What is the difference? There is no difference. It's a commercial property. It needs to stay commercial. There's no real difference to impact. If they put, for instance, a Home Depot there, somebody goes to ShopRite, they go to Home Depot. What's the difference? They're already going to ShopRite anyway. The people that bought property that is zoned R1 next door, bought property next door to a ShopRite, next door to a liquor store, and next door to Edlin's. They bought property next to commercial property. They did not buy property next to high-density housing. Their property right now has been valued, taking into consideration the commercial property next door, not 89 high-density housing units next door. I think it's extremely unprofessional and unfair of our township representatives that are supposed to represent us to allow this to happen, because it will devalue people's properties.
Ms. Coyne, you don't think we intervened when they wanted to put 200 low and moderate income housing units there? You didn't think those conversations took place?
I didn't say they didn't. That has nothing to do with what we're discussing right now. What
Okay.
we're discussing right now
Okay.
is a commercial property that's zoned highway commercial.
It's a mixed-use development of 89 homes, up to 89
But do
homes.
you understand that that property is a large piece of highway commercial property? You could put something there besides a Wawa or a dollar store. You could put something there that would generate ratables for the residents of this township that would help protect them from having their taxes raised once again.
If I may, aren't you part of groups of residents that also complain about the empty buildings on Blackwood, Clements Road?
What
So,
groups of residents are you referring to?
Just residents that complain about the empty buildings on Blackwood, Clements Road. So what, to me, we started this years ago with a high-density apartment complex, and we're trying to find that compromise now down to a mixed use.
I'm not following your train of thought. What does this have to do with Blackwood Clinton Road and a group of residents that complain?
In general, that there are empty buildings.
There are.
Yeah, but now you're saying you're okay with this property being zoned commercial, so that will then possibly sit there for years more empty.
The property is zoned highway commercial. It's a large piece of property that's highway commercial. It's the only piece of property of that size that's zoned highway commercial in the upper third of the township. This upper third of the township is saturated with high-density housing, saturated, with many more units to come. We need highway commercial. I would like to have someplace to go other than having to go down to the southern end of the township that borders Winslow to shop. All I'm saying is it's highway commercial. That's what it is. The owner bought the property highway commercial. It's zoned highway commercial. It should stay highway commercial. If we had an overabundance of highway commercial and very little housing, I could understand your logic, but that's not the case. It's not the case at all.
I think,
Excuse me, Mr. Crowley, nobody can hear you with the microphone laying on the table.
What I think is the discussions we've had over this period of time is, yes, ShopRite has been there, and that used to be a mall there. Now it's a storefront. But what has developed all around it from a planning perspective, all around it has been developed as residential. And yes, you still have that commercial element sitting there, but the whole area around it has developed from a planning point of view as residential. So you have all those residential homes there now, and you have that piece of property that's still commercial, which if a developer came in and said, I want to put this kind of store there, you might not like the traffic of that store, but you're going to get it because it's permitted use.
It is a
So,
permitted
but from
use.
a planning point of view, maybe the planners can interject here. What has developed in that area, all around that ShopRite and the pizza place, and the liquor store that's there, has all been developed as residential, except for this one little piece that's sitting there.
That borders commercial property.
That also borders residential property.
But it's right next to
The
commercial
Downs
property.
Avenue properties all developed after ShopRite was there and all. They've all developed it, and what is there, plus another piece behind this that's not part of this, it has changed or is still commercial, I believe, on Kelly Driver. So
It's farmland next door, even though they don't farm, it's
Everything
farmland.
that is developed around there has been developing as residential. It used to be commercial. It's residential and was residential. So it just seems from a planning point of view, and maybe Mr. Bach or Mr. Lechner can comment on that. From a planning perspective, it just seems to be a more proper planning.
From a planning perspective, in my opinion, it seems more proper to plan for the future and to realize that this community needs commercial ratables. We do not need, I'm sorry?
But you're impacting the residential if you say let the commercial continue.
There is commercial there. It is an existing commercial property. You have ShopRite
But
right
it's a
there.
commercial like this. It could be a commercial like this.
Commercial is, ShopRite is a huge commercial, that whole unit, that whole center is a huge amount of traffic every day. People go to ShopRite every single day.
So double it with more, I'm not advocating one way or another, but it just, from a planning point of view, it just seems.
Well, it sounds like you are advocating one way, and for a planning point of view, the master plan is the master plan. We have a master plan for a reason. We have zoning for a reason.
You're also mandated to amend your master plan every 10 years.
Okay, the master plan was amended in 2015.
So you're supposed to continue to amend your master plan as your community develops, so you're in tune with what's happening around certain areas.
And you're also supposed to have a balance of commercial property, residential property, and industrial property. And that's where we are lacking. We have an overabundance of residential property. And if you take our commercial property and develop and put high-density residential housing on our commercial property, it is forever a residential property. And when the housing market turns and you're stuck with an overabundance of housing that nobody wants and no commercial properties for anybody to come in and build on of any substantial size, we're going to be stuck where we were years ago with a bunch of abandoned properties and no businesses, and our taxes are going to go up once again. So it seems like everybody here just wants to take advantage of the housing market now and stuff their pockets with money and move on, and nobody's planning for the future. And the residents that are still alive and still live here 10 years from now are going to be cleaning up the mess from all this. Because nobody, when they approve these developments, does a study to see what the value is per acre of a high-density housing development versus a commercial business on that property. You just say, oh, well, there's a high demand for houses, so we're going to stick high-density housing there. Well, what's the value per acre of doing that? What's the strain on our infrastructure? Who's going to pay for the maintenance forever for these 89 townhomes, the sewers, the waters, the fire, the emergency? Who's going to pay for all that? I am. And when you're talking about building the developments are built with tax incentives from the government, with bonding, with financing that's available. But as far as the infrastructure, I pay for that. The taxpayers pay for that. And we're going to be paying for it forever. And that's not even talking about the schools.
Is there anything else, Ms. Coyne?
Yeah, actually, somebody that had to leave gave me some questions that she wanted me to ask on her behalf. She wants to know, what is an overlay?
Mr. Bach?
Thank you. It's just a term, overlay. So this is overlaid on this parcel. That was just a term selected.
It's a planning term.
To be descriptive.
Well, it's an overlay zoning. So she wants to know what.
In this context, this overlay zoning is to supplant the underlying zoning. This will be the zoning.
So you're overlaying the residential zoning, the commercial zoning with residential and.
With mixed use as presented, yes.
Okay, and she wanted to know, how many affordable housing units do we still need?
I don't have my files on affordable housing, but
Could you get back to me on that?
I believe there was, you could do an open request to the clerk. I know I've responded to several ones just like that.
No, I want the specific number because I've asked for that over before and they said need plans and I have to figure it out myself. And I'd like to know if you know the specific number, if you have that available that you could provide.
I would like you to do it through the proper channels, which is.
Sure, but I'm asking if I do that, if I'll get the number.
I respond to every open request.
But will I get a figure is what I'm asking.
I answer the questions you ask.
Okay. What else does she want to know? That's all I can read of her handwriting. I think that's it. Oh,
All right.
no, I did have one other question. The planning board said that they were going to send the council their recommendation as well as the public comments. Did you get public comments from the planning board?
I do not have public comments. We had that. Nancy. No,
So council members have not read any of the public comments from the planning board meeting.
I do not have any public comments.
Mr. Lechner, did you send those comments over?
Well, the planning board hasn't memorialized their resolution yet.
But they're voting on it
You don't
tonight.
have the minutes been prepared.
But they're voting on it tonight.
I could tell the council that the planning board recommended by majority to approve the ordinance.
Okay, I'm totally lost. I thought council sent this to the planning board in order for the planning board to make a recommendation, at which point the recommendation would go to council, at which point there would be a second hearing, public hearing, where you would consider the recommendations of council. But I just found out were no recommendations.
There is recommendations of the planning board. There is a recommendation.
Yes, from the planning board. Okay, but he just said he didn't tell you what it was.
And if I may,
Mr. Bobby?
I was at the hearing, and Mr. Lecter's absolutely correct. There was a finding by the planning board by a majority vote that recommended the ordinance be adopted by council. There was also a finding that the comments of the public be included in the summary report to be on the record. There was no finding of the vote of the planning board taking into consideration specific comments by the public. The board voted up and down, and they voted in affirmative to recommend the ordinance. But they wanted to memorialize the comments in a memorializing document, memorialized fashion. It was actually brought up during the planning board specifically, was that the intent, and that was the intent of the board.
The
Okay,
recommendation was to move the ordinance.
Correct, without condition.
Is there anything else, Ms. Boyd?
yeah, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. You just now found out the recommendation of the planning board?
No, because I have an ordinance in front of me. I was aware that the board voted the way they voted after their planning board meeting. So then it gets placed on our agenda. I approved the agenda on Thursday. I understand that they had made this recommendation.
So that's the only recommendation you have, is the fact that you have that in front of you. You don't have anything from the planning board that says, we recommend you approve this because it meets this criteria of the master plan and this criteria of the master plan. You don't have anything that says any of that.
I have the ordinance that has that.
That's all you have?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. With that, we'll close the public hearing. So we have a ordinance 0-20-07. I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second. On the question. Roll call, please.
Ms. Grace? Yes. Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mrs. Strata?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Ordinance 0-21-13, ordinance fixing the compensation of officers and employees of the Township of Gloucester and the County of Camden. We will have a public hearing for this. Anyone like to speak on this ordinance? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion. Public hearing. I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. On the question, roll call, please.
Ms. Grace? Yes. Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mrs. Strata?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next, we have our consent agenda. Any council member would like to have any of those items removed, please speak up. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Ms. Grace? Yes. Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mrs. Strata?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next, we have a resolution. This is the add-on, Resolution 2111-327. It's a resolution authorizing the tax collector to conduct the accelerated electronic tax sale for the calendar year 2021. I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
On the question, roll call, please.
Ms. Grace? Yes. Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mrs. Strata?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. We did not receive any GTE Gov access emails. We'll now have the second public portion. This is for any item that anyone wishes to discuss. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes, and there's a total of 30 minutes for our second public portion. Mr. Kruger.
Evening again, Council. Paul Krug, Blackwood Estates. I wanted to follow up on a topic that was talked about at the last council meeting, which was regarding an RFP that was being put out for a 7-ton roller. And we had a discussion about that being used for our sports fields to even out the playing fields. And so I went home, did a little bit of digging around. 7-ton roller is a piece of construction equipment, quite a large piece of construction equipment that I don't think is warranted to roll out the divots for our sports field. So I found a company, and I'll send this in an email tomorrow if I get the opportunity, called Turf Time Equipment. They're out of New Holland, Pennsylvania, and which is in between Philadelphia and Harrisburg, so fairly close. They have a product called Heavy Duty Turf Rollers, which they have listed here as an excellent choice for rolling fairways and greens on golf courses, leveling sports fields, and park and recreation sites, smoothing out grassy areas on farms and estates. They go from 20, let's see, hold on one second, get you the exact here. They go from 60 inches to 144 inches. And then when they're filled with water, they can be upwards of 2,500 pounds up to 5,000 pounds, which is, plenty of weight to roll out any kinks. They're 1/10 the cost of what a 7-ton construction roller, the $44,000 that we're putting the request out for proposal for. So we could buy several of these and have them at our sports fields and save $30,000 as opposed to putting a 7-ton mechanical engine-based construction roller on our books, which we would have to maintain. This is taken behind, let's say, like a small John Deere tractor across our fields, which I'm sure we already have at our high school and some of our sports fields and public works have. So I wanted to suggest this because there's obviously alternatives to a large piece of construction equipment being used to roll divots out of our fields.
Paul, can you send that to me via email? You said you're going to send it tomorrow?
I'll try to get it out tomorrow.
Can I comment? And also copy Mr. Cars. Go ahead, Mr. Cars.
You were provided a memo from Bob Morris,
Yes.
one of the supervisors of Public Works in charge of roads and also the recreation complex. And we did ask him, he did copy Mr. Bucciaroni on this, for the uses for this piece of equipment, because this piece of equipment was selected by the various supervisors and has not only been requested this year, but was requested in preceding years. That memo that was sent to me was also opened recently, and I believe that was provided to Mr. Heimwald. I'd be happy to share that memo with you, Paul. The first item on the list for the reasons that they're requesting that is not for the athletic field. That's the secondary.
That's secondary.
The primary is for the roads. And so that's where it's more applicable.
Paul, is this something that could maintain roads and handle the roads, or you just strictly looked it up for our athletic field?
Yeah, most of our discussion the last time around was, I thought the main purpose of this was for our athletic fields.
I have
dual
I have
use.
copies of this. I'll give you my copy of it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Happy, I'm still going to provide it to you.
Yes,
Happy
please.
to look at if roads, because I imagine, obviously, we're not a contractor that is paving roads, so I doubt we need something to that extent. This would be for aggregate, I would imagine, to compact
That's
it.
not true. We do pave.
We do pave?
There are areas that we pave.
Would this be used for road paving?
Yes, used for compaction prior to paving. Yes, we do. Absolutely.
Okay.
I'd be happy to get you more information. If you want to send it through me, or if you want to talk to Mr. Bucciaroni or Mr. Morris, you're welcome to do that.
Sure, we'll do. I'll keep the communication lines open. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Paul. Is there anyone else that has not spoken this evening? And yes. Good evening, Isabel.
Good evening. Good, how are you?
Very good.
I had a question at the last council meeting when Mr. Burns had brought up about the agenda items that the planning board was going to be reviewing. You had mentioned that nobody from council could actually even go to planning board because it was a liability.
If we attended a planning board meeting and sat there, and then that planning board meeting goes to council, and then we vote on that particular matter, and let's say whoever the applicant may be, okay, and that applicant, it did not go in their favor, that particular application, we would probably be liable, or Mr. Carter, can you give me the correct wording on that? But it's presents a conflict of interest for council to attend that planning board meeting.
They're considered quasi judicial boards, so it's always best for a governing body not to attend, except for representatives.
Mr. Hutchinson is the liaison to the planning board, so he sits there on council's behalf.
Right, and that's what I was going to kind of lead into is he doesn't just sit as a liaison to.
Oh, he votes.
But he votes.
Planning board member.
Right. So how does that protect the township in a liability system? I mean, if he's
And that's statutory also, that one member of council is council appointed.
Are there other boards where that occurs?
Where they actually
Like,
vote?
are the rest of you also voting on other members and voting in on other boards?
No, I was on the planning board for 9 long years as the council representative, and so I had a vote. But I sit on I go to the NUA as the liaison. I do not have a vote. They ask for council comments. I provide comments. Mr. Mignon's part of Parks and Recs oversees that. Ms. Grace is with the Housing Authority, is a liaison. She sits on it. Ms. Strato is with the the Historical Committee. And Mrs. Winters is with the Blackwood Lake. Sorry. I was going to say Blackwood West, Blackwood Lake. But no, the only voting member on council on any of these boards is Mr. Hutchinson and the planning board.
And if I know there was actually a request a few, I guess like maybe 2 or 3 planning boards ago, because they didn't have a quorum. So there was a request for people to send in applications to become members or become, sitting committee members. Would Mr. Hutchinson still continue to have that ability to vote in? It just seems weird that you guys should be here as our representatives hearing us, and then also there should be an open dialogue among you to have your own thoughts and opinions put out there. But we do have somebody with, his thoughts and his ideas are going to be stagnant among both boards. It's not a fresh set of ideas. It just seems like we're shortchanging the township by having somebody on 2 very, important boards. And to me, a liaison shouldn't have the right to be given a vote into it.
Mr. Carter, that's statutory to have
A member of council.
a member of council, the governing body on the planning board.
But the statute is very clear that a member of the governing body does not participate in the zoning board. So it's kind of central to define who should be a member. Those 2 boards are considered quasi-judicial boards, hearing applications, granting promotions, approve or deny applications, recommendations, and all those kind of things. So they have a testimony presented and rules of evidence to follow, so they're considered quasi-judicial boards.
And then one other question. I hope Ms. Stubbs is doing well. I've noticed that she's not been here for some time. But again, that also relates to there's a hole in this committee. So is there a way to have someone like an absentee person in her place, or is there a certain point, given also that she is a paid citizen, we are paying for her to be on council? Is there a point where we find a new council member?
She was elected by the residents of Gloucester Township. she has been experiencing some health issues, and I can't go into.
Yeah,
it.
I am
No,
not
can't go-
asking for
I can't go
whatever her
into those
reasonings are,
things.
yeah.
But we don't have a sub that comes in and takes her place. If Ms. Stubbs feels that she can no longer move forward in this position, then Ms. Stubbs makes that decision. But she's making every effort to come back here. But again, she has been dealing with some health concerns over the last few months.
And so it's good to hear that she's hoping to come back, but is there a limitation, like after a year that someone's out or 2 years? I mean, again, we're paying somebody, we've elected them in so that they can, participate in these meetings, and then.
Mr. Carmer, can you look in? I can't, I'm not gonna speak like I didn't know
There's something like in an agreement when you.
I know, like
come
for the
into
school board,
office.
for instance, if someone does not show for a certain amount of time, then the school board, they can act on that. I'm not sure with the municipality, and I'll have Mr. Carmer look into that.
Okay. And then just one other small thing. I too had been following to see the little pond. I live right down the street to see if that was going to land on the agenda. Because I didn't want to falsely let people know, like, hey, come out Monday. And I did not see that agenda posted until when I looked this morning at 9 a.m. But I looked consistently Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I just want to make that known.
And you found it in the same location that you found it today?
This morning when I looked at 9 a.m., it was where it normally would have been. But when I was looking, and I've been coming for quite some time, so I'm used to seeing, I know where to look.
Right.
It's not a matter of, it's my first time. So, but it was not available and posted.
We will look into it further, and I have asked them to email me the timestamps. And like I said, Ms. Coyne was in my office a few times today. This is the first it's being brought to all of our attention this morning. And that's what concerned me, because it was not brought to my attention in any capacity, for me to look into. But like I said, I do have the emails. I do have Blue Wire's notations that they did upload it to the website on Thursday evening. So I will look further into it, though. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sabella. Is there anyone else that has not spoken that would like to speak today? Mr. Sweet?
Sam Sweet from Ariel. Hoping Ms. Stubbs has a speedy and healthy recovery, by the way. You can pass on my prayers to her.
I will.
These jobs that are here, that you guys voted on and all that, certain of them are part-time. How can people apply for them?
Township's website. There's a summer hiring frenzy that takes place for summer jobs. Mostly they're high school students or college students that apply for it. That's advertised through our Facebook page and on the township's website.
So the part-time positions like the camp counselors and all that
Yeah.
are on the website. What about like senior citizen coordinator, community service coordinator, those part-time positions? Like I'm assuming, obviously, judge in municipal court, you have to be qualified. There's qualifications for them. But like for compliant inventory part-time, senior citizen, the municipal alliance clerk part-time, things like that. How would people apply for those? Are they appointed positions or are they?
So when you say for municipal alliance, like off the top of my head, so that is something that our CFO, Chrissy Arrett, oversees. Municipal alliance is money that's provided through the state that deals with substance abuse. And before it used to fund DARE, which is now LEAD. It used to fund anti-bullying programs through the school district of Gloucester Township Public Schools. We used to receive 12 grand, also Big Brother Sisters program. That was run out of C.W. Lewis School. So that's grant money provided from the state to the county that goes from the county to the township. So in her role, when it says part-time, that's that's something that, another responsibility she has, that she's compensated for.
Okay, but what about like the other positions? Is there basically a job description and the requirements for these places so people could actually go and say, oh, I want to be, I mean, obviously, I want to be the public defender. Is there a listing of what the requirements of the public defender are and how to apply on the website?
Mr. Cardis?
Well, public
Yeah,
defender,
public
you have to
appointed.
be an attorney.
Yeah.
And be part of the RFP, RFQ, advertised annually. Just supposed to be
Yeah, I'm just using that as an example.
Look, there are some positions that are vacant. I say mostly your summer counseling and the things you see at the bottom of that list. There are other positions that are currently occupied. There may also be positions in there that have not been filled, and there's no intent at this point to fill it.
Okay, but is there a listing of those positions that aren't filled?
There is, if you want to see like the background of each position or what qualifications are necessary, there is a civil service listing for each and every position.
So would I contact you or would I contact Mrs. Power?
No, you would contact Carla Jeffy, the HR person.
Okay, all right. I want to circle back to the EDC.
Yes, I owe you agenda and minutes. I requested that. You said 4 years. No one recalls seeing it here in 4 years. So I'm going to get what I can get.
But
so I requested.
did you get anything?
I'm requested for this year of 2021. I'm expecting to receive that in the next day.
Okay, and
And I'll send that to you.
Mr. Lechner said something that the meetings are now virtual, and I didn't hear his answer if the public can attend.
Well, I will send an email to the EDC president and ask him. I'll get it from the president. I'll speak for the EDC, but they have been virtual since the pandemic.
Okay, and can you find out whether the public can attend?
I will ask Joe Angeloni, who's the president of the EDC.
Okay.
And can you also ask why his charter's been revoked by the state of New Jersey since 2012?
I believe that has been at least discussed at the last meeting, which he was not in attendance at, but it was mentioned.
Because I'll go back to, we are doing business with them. We're paying Triad to prepare these agendas and minutes, and by we, I mean the township is paying them. So why are we doing business with a economic development corporation that's charter's been revoked? And I still have not gotten an answer to that. Am I getting one?
Saying they're not compensated. Again, as I said at the last meeting, these are people who are volunteers that volunteer their time to working on projects for the Blackwood West area. So it's not like we're paying anyone there. They're not getting compensated. So frankly, the fact that their charter's been revoked, I used to work for a nonprofit back in the day, you get your 501c3 revoked, you're not getting any funding from anyone because you lost it. But they're not getting funded by our township. We work closely with them, yes, okay, but
why are we working closely with a nonprofit that?
They're a group, as I said, they're a group of volunteers that have committed. Mr. Angelini's been on that board for over a decade.
And for over a decade, the charter's been revoked.
Okay.
So I'm wondering why we are allowed, like as a township, we're doing business with them. We're paying Triad money to create an agenda and minutes for a meeting, for meetings for a company that doesn't.
And what's the end result when we provide funds to Triad to help us do what? What's that? What are they doing? Triad for us.
But Triad is doing the agenda and the minutes.
No, but what are they doing? Okay, they're engaging in economic development projects. They're consulting the township, and they're working with the Economic Development Corporation.
That charter's been revoked.
Okay.
So I don't think anybody here would do business with a company that technically doesn't exist. Would anybody here do business with a company that doesn't exist?
If I called them an advisory board, if we call them an advisory board rather than a corporation, would you be okay that they're meeting to discuss economic development projects in the township? And that we have Triad providing their minutes and agenda?
Still want to see the minutes in the agenda and see why we're,
So
again,
we'll get to that. We'll get to those minutes and agenda. Okay?
preferably sooner than later.
Absolutely. So it wasn't 4 years. You requested minutes and agendas.
Okay.
I'll get you what I can get you. Thank you.
But I did request them the last time, so whatever you should have gotten at least the most recent ones. So,
I will get them to you.
okay, so 4 years, the last 4 years
If you're requesting 4 years, I'll see what.
I'm requesting 4 years. Would you like that in writing and an email?
Got it. 4 years.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. You have a good one. Is there anyone else? Public portion. Polling of directors.
Mr. Berlin.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Cardis.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Lechner.
Nothing to report.
Chief Harkins.
Just want to wish everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving. We'll have patrols out, DWI patrols, and patrols throughout the holiday weekend with the outlets and other retail outlets. Be a busy week, so just everybody have a safe holiday.
Thank you, Chief.
Ms. Grace. Mr. Mignon.
Happy Thanksgiving also. Please be safe going home. Have a great week.
Mrs. Winters.
I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and please be safe. I generally make a comment, COVID is on the rise again, so please do what you can to keep it contained and prevent the spread. Have a great night.
Mrs. Trotta.
I would like to remind everyone that this Sunday, Gabriel Davies Tavern in Glendora is having their holiday open house from 1 to 4 p.m. The main stage singers will be there, Victorian Santa Claus, and refreshments, and also tours of the property.
Mr. McCarter.
I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. And just there's a couple other community events that are taking place. The Blackwood Christmas Parade is taking place on December 4th, Saturday at 6 o'clock. And then on December 12th, there will be a tree lighting out here in Veterans Park. All are welcome to attend with their families. And I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, a safe and happy Thanksgiving. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, have a great evening, everyone.
Oh.